this time when we talk about AI or agentic AI, it is outcome oriented. It is of course learning from historical data, all of that is happening, but it is working towards goals that businesses want to achieve. B, it is context driven. That has not happened in the case of AI. Alexa never remembered the context.
Right.
You asked a question, it
Command
answered.
based.
Yeah, it was very command based. But here, A, it is goal oriented. B, it is autonomous. And C, it understands context. And if that comes together in AI, then that kind of becomes extremely powerful, I believe, in the customer experience space. I think from marketing and customer experience perspective, there are a lot of investments that are happening in campaign operations. But now what people are doing is, through these agentic AI systems, you can automatically create content for a campaign.
Right.
You can also see whether that content that you are creating is working or not.
Yeah.
And you can roll out those campaigns autonomously to users such as you. And AI can also measure whether that campaign is working for you or not. Are you even viewing it? Are you taking some decisions based on that? And based on that, it can automatically change.
Right.
That no, this is not working. This content does not resonate with him. Let me change this. These are not things that will happen in the next 3 to 4 years. These are conversations and use cases that brands are talking about now. Campaign is a very, very big area. Or companies have thought about digital products, right? I want to create this particular product on my website. These are my needs. Design a website for me. And traditionally, how have websites worked, or how have you and me used it? It's about, okay, this is the landing page.
Fixed structure.
Yeah, fixed structure.
Yeah.
Generally, the navigation will work like this. You'll click on home, or you'll click on, what the website has to offer. All of those things. There's an investor relations section, so many others. It's largely fixed. But today what is happening is, today brands are having conversations where they want to rethink customer journeys. Because now this website is not just about customer journey of awareness, consideration, purchase, post-purchase, etc. It is not that. It has collapsed.
Correct.
Now it is about what is the customer's intent,
And the content.
let the agentic AI figure that out, and then what is the outcome. It's no more about that long
Linear
chain.
journey.
It's not a linear journey. It is about that. So now how digital products are being designed, or what some of the cutting edge companies are doing, is they are designing websites where a user lands and just communicates their intent. My intent is to buy a pair of shoes of my size, of this color, etc. My intent is to, shop for my child. I'm having a new baby, and these are my requirements, etc. The front-end agentic AI system understands the intent, communicates with a lot of back-end agentic AI systems that might be working, and gives you the output. It works towards goal. Back in the day when I am a customer executive, like working in a call center, what would I do? I would have a screen, and the AI agent will possibly give me some, so not the AI agent, the traditional AI would give me some insight into, hey, you are talking to this person, this is what they care about, this is their
Past
history,
queries,
all of that. And it'll probably summarize it, that's it. But today, that same person is sitting, and that person has a script that the AI is generating for that person. You've got to talk about this. That's generative AI. Now switch to AI agent. The AI agent, because it is context driven, can actually have a real-time conversation with the customer and can possibly judge the intent. So if you are showing a certain degree of frustration that I think as a AI agent I may not be capable of handling, I hand it over to a human. Imagine the money it will save for the brands. The CMO role has also changed. Now CMOs are growth oriented. They collaborate with the CFOs and the CIO, CTO side of the business to deliver business outcomes. So gone are the days when they were doing the coolest stuff. Now they have to deliver business outcomes. And in this context, when you make AI enter, it delivers a lot of efficiencies for them. It provides them with a lot of ROI from their investments. And I think that is becoming very, very interesting. You're talking about CMO 2.0. You're talking about CMO 2.0 who's in charge of growth, who is driving business outcomes, who's collaborating with the CFO and the CIO, CTO side of the organization.
Knows the tech.
Yeah, knows the tech also, knows the cool stuff also.
Yeah.
That's a bloody difficult job to do.
It is.
Our CMOs really like that. And my answer is pretty straightforward, no. Certain regions are more mature. Certain like in the CMOs in certain specific countries might be more mature. Certain verticals are more mature. A CMO in the retail and CPG sector cannot not afford to know about technology.
True.
Whereas a CMO more in the B2B business, generally, not always, may not be as, maybe the word is not evolved, but may not be tasked with so many responsibilities or expectations as from a retail and CPG side. Generally, when companies design experiences for customers, they think in very traditional manners, traditional workflows, that there is a customer journey, there is awareness, there is consideration, there is evaluation, there is purchase, there is post-purchase, and then there is loyalty.
What Philip Kotler taught us.
Yeah, what Philip Kotler taught us during MBA and all of that.
Yeah.
All of that still remains.
Path to purchase,
We all think like that. But their central premise is that is gone. That has collapsed. And you need to think differently in terms of how you are designing experiences for your customers. And with that different thinking is, to put it in simple terms, what is the customer intent? How are agents going to work around it? What outcome is being delivered?
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of CX with Chopra, where we talk about everything customer experience. And today's episode is going to be very exciting because so far we have talked about the whole evolution, the transformation of CX that we are seeing. But I personally believe that we are at that inflection point where we are going to see how artificial intelligence or AI is going to completely flip or transform CX, both for business and for customers or users as well. I'm going to talk a lot about that as well. And to talk about that, we have a guest today, Ms. Nisha. Thank you so much for joining. So she's a vice president at Everest Group. She's renowned for her insights in marketing, in customer experience. She's been a thought leader. She's done presentations at multiple stages at global presence. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
And really excited to have this conversation because,
Same here.
I mean, just to start off by talking about how different evolutions have happened from cloud, and then let alone cloud. If we talk about 2022 was about metaverse. Then came blockchain, and then came generative AI, where everybody was blown away of what's going to hit us. And now we are talking about the whole AI agents or agentic AI. So what's your view on, we talk about the pace of changing things. We're talking, we're looking at, is metaverse relevant, not relevant? Because that whole conversation went for about a year.
Yeah.
But with AI, I don't see that doubt now in people's mind.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right about it. And I think when you talk about AI, it's also very important to remember that the definition of AI has changed over a period of time. So back in the day, some of the basic rule-based systems, which could do some really basic stuff, like you remember the chatbots back then, which were pre-coded, etc., those were called AI. And then came machine learning, wherein these systems could learn from historical data and could make predictions. That became AI, right? Where you remember you had recommendation engines, you had these filters in emails, and then came deep learning, wherein AI systems could understand text, they could understand voice, they could understand videos, etc. And then you had technology such as facial recognition. You had your Alexa coming in every home. But today what we are doing is we are seeing the rise of agentic AI, which is very different from what we have seen historically. Because this time when we talk about AI or agentic AI, it is outcome oriented. It is not, it is of course learning from historical data, all of that is happening, but it is working towards goals that businesses want to achieve. B, it is context driven. That has not happened in the case of AI. Alexa never remembered the context.
Right.
You asked a question, it
Command
answered.
based.
Yeah, it was very command based. But here, A, it is goal oriented, B, it is autonomous, and C, it understands context. And if that comes together in AI, then that kind of becomes extremely powerful, I believe, in the customer experience space. Now, think of a scenario, and we all are familiar with it, right? We call a call center, this is not working.
Yeah.
The call center employee may or may not be empowered to answer your question.
Right. And you go in
You'll
loops,
get,
explaining same
you'll
thing
go
again
into
and again.
loop. You will say, hand over the call to your manager. I want to
Yeah.
talk to the manager. The
And
manager
then to the
will
manager, another manager.
another
yeah.
manager, and by the time of it, you have a perception of the brand, and
That
you're
is so
done
true.
with it.
Right.
Now, imagine this scenario being taken over by a set of AI agents, wherein an agent senses that you are not satisfied, or from your voice, you have a certain thing with the brand that you're not very happy. So the agent takes a call. Let me give this person 10% discount, or let me give this person 200 extra loyalty points because XYZ did not go well for this
Right.
particular person with the brand, and it takes the decision on its own, and then automatically it upgrades the CRM system, and then automatically the human who is in the loop knows that a set of decisions have been taken to ensure that we do not have a customer who thinks negative of the brand.
Right.
I think that's the power of agentic AI. It is not working towards specific tasks. It is not working towards, hey, I have to recommend the next best product.
Right.
But these set of agents are coming together and they're helping achieve business goals.
And just to maybe probably I'll also simplify for some of the my audience as well. We keep hearing generative AI, agentic AI. What are AI agents?
Yeah.
So generative AI is typically AI generating content for you based on the data patterns. So it'll create content like ChatGPT, what we
Yeah.
see. Agentic AI is more about building those autonomous systems which can take decisions on its own, like you rightly
Yeah.
said, based on a set goal. And
Yeah.
AI agents would be one part of it, picking up one task and doing that task automatically. And
Yeah.
one example that comes to my mind is self-driving cars.
Yeah.
A self-driving car is a great example of agentic AI. And then inside it, the automatic braking system, the navigation, those would be your AI agents.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And now we take this example and extrapolate it that for a brand who's been running, let's say for decades, but for them to transform their existing, I think it will disrupt everything, because if you're talking about autonomous systems,
Yeah.
it can be in supply chain, it can be in operation. Yes, we are already seeing use cases on the customer relationship side, like
Yeah.
chatbots.
Yeah.
But do you think that it's going to, or are there any areas where brands are focusing
More on compared to
more
others.
on, because they would be looking at the value part as well, because with metaverse came a lot of promise, and I'm
Yeah.
sure a lot of brands probably had allocated certain budgets and they
Yeah.
were committed to it, but maybe it has not given them those returns yet.
Yeah.
But with AI, I'm sure everybody is testing water, so they would do they have certain more like what's a quick win, let's test waters with this first.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that's a good question. I'll answer it in two parts. One, I think this particular AI revolution that we are seeing today is different from metaverse.
Okay.
Metaverse was a lot of hype with respect to all of these virtual ecosystems that need to be created. I don't think the technology was ready to the extent that it should have been. B, I don't think a lot of brands were able to justify that there was a strong business case to get into the metaverse space. So a lot of brands built stuff on it.
Right.
But how many brands got ROI out of it? Very few, and therefore it kind of fizzled out. But this AI revolution that we're talking about is real, and I'll tell you why. I talk to a lot of brands who are investing in all of these technologies. Till beginning of last year, 85% of the POCs, of the proof of concepts which were done on AI, never scaled because ROI was not there. Today, when I talk to the same customers, the conversation is so different. You know what they're talking about? They're talking about, we know the use case. How do we scale it? How do we scale it across
It's not
functions?
about the use case anymore.
It is about the use case, but it is no more about, hey, prove what the ROI is going to be. prove how the customer is going to benefit. They know there is going to be ROI. They know that the customer is going to benefit. They know there is a business need. What they don't know is A, where to start from and how to scale it. And that's where things get even more interesting. So that's one part of your question. The second part is, are there any specific use cases where there are more investments compared to the others? I think from marketing and customer experience perspective, there are a lot of investments that are happening in campaign operations. I'll tell you what I mean by that. We all as consumers see a lot of campaigns from all the brands that we come across, right? But now what people are doing is, through these agentic AI systems, you can automatically create content for a campaign.
Right.
You can also see whether that content that you are creating is working or not.
Yep.
And you can roll out those campaigns autonomously to users such as you. And AI can also measure whether that campaign is working for you or not. Are you even viewing it? Are you taking some decisions based on that? And based on that, it can automatically change.
Right.
That no, this is not working. This content does not resonate with him. Let me change this. These are not things that will happen in the next 3 to 4 years. These are conversations and use cases that brands are talking about now. Campaign is a very, very big area. The other big area, and this is so fundamental, and I see so many companies going wrong in this, is the entire digital product experience. And you and I were having a conversation before this as well. Think of how traditional design agencies or companies have thought about digital products, right? I want to create this particular product on my website. These are my needs. Design a website for me. And traditionally, how have websites worked, or how have you and me used it? It's about, okay, this is the landing page.
It's a fixed structure.
Yeah, fixed structure.
Yeah.
Generally, the navigation will work like this. You'll click on home, or you'll click on, what the website has to offer. All of those things. There's an investor relations section, so many others. It's largely fixed.
Right.
Largely it is. It might vary by verticals.
I mean, you have those best practices.
Yeah, you have those best practices.
90% of the people are following best practices.
And UI UX designers have, for number of years followed those best practices.
And even if you hide the logo, it's very difficult to say which brand is this.
Yeah,
because more or less, 90% they look the same.
Yeah, within a certain vertical. But today what is happening is, today brands are having conversations where they want to rethink customer journeys. Because now this website is not just about customer journey of awareness, consideration, purchase, post-purchase, etc. It is not that. It has collapsed.
Correct.
Now it is about what is the customer's intent.
And the context.
Let the agentic AI figure that out. And then what is the outcome? It's no more about that long
linear
chain.
Journey.
It's not a linear journey. It is about that. So now how digital products are being designed, or what some of the cutting edge companies are doing, is they are designing websites where a user lands and just communicates their intent. My intent is to buy a pair of shoes of my size, of this color, etc. My intent is to, shop for my child. I'm having a new baby and, these are my requirements, etc. The front-end agentic AI system understands the intent, communicates with a lot of back-end agentic AI systems that might be working, and gives you the output. It works towards goal, like we started this discussion on. And the goal is that the customer wants this and they should have it as soon as possible. So yes, in campaigns, a lot of use cases are happening. How products are being designed, digital products are being designed, is a very, very important use case.
A very interesting perspective from what you just said is then, which means the customer is now is a partner with the brand to create the personalized experience for the customer.
Absolutely.
It's no more a one-way street. Okay, I am understanding you, or let's say I have a customer so-called 360. I have information about you.
Yeah.
Based on that information, I'll give you personalized experience.
Yeah.
It's not that it's taking it to the another level.
It's taking
where
it to
the customer is a partner, in creating that experience based on exactly what that customer is feeling at that moment, what the intent is, what the context is, what the conversation is.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why the customer journeys in this particular age of AI, as you said, are no more linear, are no more based on what are the set of tasks which you as a brand want the customer to execute. These are intent based. This is the intent, we've got to fulfill it. Yeah, there's lots that is happening. Campaign is one, digital product is one. The other place where we are seeing a lot of The entire space of marketing automation, right?
Hmm.
Customer service. That's another example.
Yeah.
I mean, we back in the day we used to talk about call centers. Of course, it's no more cool to talk about call centers, but the fact of the matter is that a lot of companies have call centers,
Yeah.
and a lot of investments are happening in, funding those call centers, whatever the case might be. You and I talk to a lot of
Yeah.
human agents as well
Yeah.
to get our tasks done. But one of the very prime use cases is that how can we use AI agents for customer query resolution? And you can understand this is not something new. This has been happening.
Right.
But today, why it is different is because today we have what you call generative AI and AI agents, which understand context and work towards goals.
It's no more a rule-based flat
It's no more.
response.
I mean, back in the day when I am a customer executive, like working in a call center, what would I do? I would have a screen,
Yep.
and the AI agent will possibly give me some. So not the AI agent, the traditional AI
Right.
would give me some insight into,
Right.
hey, you are talking to this person. This is what they care about. This is their
Past
history. All of
queries,
that.
all of that.
All of that, and it'll probably summarize it. That's
Yeah.
it. But today, that same person is sitting, and that person has a script that the AI is generating for that person. You've got to talk about this.
Right.
That's generative AI. Now switch to AI agent. The AI agent, because it is context driven, can actually have a real time conversation
Right.
with the customer and can possibly judge the intent. So if you are showing a certain degree of frustration that I think as a AI agent I may not be capable of handling, I hand it over to a human.
Right.
Imagine the money it will save for the brands.
Right.
And this is important. You know why I'm such a fan of this? Because in my work I also talk to a lot of CMOs, chief marketing officers. Chief marketing officer is no more the chief cool officer. There was a time
Yeah.
when a fancy agency could go to the CMO and say that, I'll make your brand this way.
Yeah.
And I will design an experience for you that your customers will absolutely love. And the CMO would get all interested
Right.
and hire that agency. But when it comes to, transforming that vision into reality, an IT system integrator would come.
Right.
And there will be then a vast difference between what was promised and
Right.
what is being delivered. Because IT system integrators know what technology it can do and cannot
do. Right.
But now, interestingly, what has happened is the CMO role has also changed. Now CMOs are growth oriented. They collaborate with the CFOs and the CIO CTO side of the business to deliver business outcomes.
Right.
So gone are the days when they were doing the coolest stuff. Now they have to deliver business outcomes. And
Right.
in this context, when you make AI enter, it delivers a lot of efficiencies for them. It provides them with a lot of ROI from their investments. And I think that is becoming very, very interesting.
But that must be the biggest challenge for the CMOs. I mean, imagine, let's say, being a CMO of a 100-year-old retail brand, and now you're hit with this, and now you have to take a decision.
Yeah.
And everybody in the organization is looking at you
Yeah.
to make that smart investment, smart
Absolutely.
move, how it should be. So, do CMOs also need coaching in this now more than ever?
Yeah.
And change their perspective of how to do marketing in today's time.
Yeah. See, you and I work in the tech sector.
Yeah.
For us, it's difficult to adapt to the
Imagine
change that is
yeah.
taking place. Imagine, and we consult with organizations, right? Now imagine the person who's been, again, managing a brand for the number of years that you
Yeah.
mentioned, right? It can be 5 years, it can be 10 years. And suddenly this technology comes. Of course, it's tough. Of course, that person is not a superman or a superwoman who can just figure it out
Yeah.
and do things. And that is why you will see some of these companies, Deloitte and all of these companies, they have specific advisory services for CMOs.
Oh, interesting.
Specific advisory services because they want CMOs to also learn how their role is changing and what the expectations are. It's not just
Makes
AI,
sense.
right? CMOs need to understand customer data. It's not just AI. How to do analytics, how to see whether a particular channel on which I'm running advertisement whether that channel is giving me the returns that it needs to. A lot of attribution, etc., needs to happen, right? So yes,
Right.
there are a lot of advisory services for CMOs. The other question I get from a lot of my clients is, you're talking about CMO 2.0. You're talking about CMO 2.0 who's in charge of growth, who is driving business outcomes, who's collaborating with the CFO and the CIO, CTO side of the organization.
Knows the tech.
Yeah, knows the tech also, knows the cool stuff also.
Yeah.
That's a bloody difficult job to do.
It is.
Are CMOs really like that? And my answer is pretty straightforward, no. Certain regions are more mature. Certain like in the CMOs in certain specific countries might be more mature. Certain verticals are more mature. A CMO in the retail and CPG sector cannot not afford to know about technology.
True.
Whereas a CMO more in the B2B business, generally, not always, may not be as, maybe the word is not evolved, but may not be tasked with so many responsibilities or expectations as from a retail and CPG side. But yeah, I mean, irrespective of region, irrespective of industry, every CMO today wants to have an AI first conversation. Every CMO that I've spoken to.
Because it's a very different change, because CMOs having some 30, 40 years of experience, they started with offline marketing. For them, moving to digital, social media back in 2010, 12, it took them time to say it's not a fad, it's here, so how do we change things? And coming back to a conversation we had offline as well, where we said back in the day, we had time to transition to something new. But now the whole shift is happening so sudden. And the end consumers can see the power. Everybody has ChatGPT or any, some of the other AI app tool on their phone they use probably every day. So end consumers are also expecting the same from the brand. Things are changing. It's no more a linear sequential journey. It's more like dynamic loops, how they do it. It's no more channel driven, that it's a email or a push notification. It's all agent driven, going to be at least. But they're going to decide that what's the, like you're saying, intent, what the context is, and then push a particular channel, then push a particular content. So it's a big transition for them. I mean,
it's a
and
big
they don't have
transition,
time.
but I'll tell you what makes it simpler, slightly simpler, if not a lot simpler. You mentioned ChatGPT. I think ChatGPT democratized AI. It gave AI in the hands of people. You and I in the tech consulting space, you tracking this space for so long and so effectively, we knew AI. We were consulting with our clients. But did my niece or my nephew know about AI? Absolutely not. But when ChatGPT was launched, my niece was using ChatGPT to write her school articles.
It's a dinner table conversation now.
Now I can talk to her about AI and artificial intelligence. Suddenly teachers in schools were forced to know, there are these systems, etc., through which people are writing articles and doing their homework. Right? So what I am trying to get at is that what makes it slightly easier or possibly adds more pressure is that every Tom, Dick and Harry today is using some form of AI. Whether it is visible or whether it is invisible, embedded into the platforms, that does not matter. But from an interaction perspective, they are using AI. And therefore, whether you like it or not, as an organization, as a business, you don't have an option. It's not the metaverse where you had an option.
Right.
It's not that. Here, you've got to get into it. Back in the day when internet was launched, etc., I remember, although I was very small, but I used to hear in my own family, the brands were having these conversations whether we should have a website or not, whether we should have a digital presence or not. That digital consulting grew and all of that. It's the same today. Whether we should do AI or not, it's not a question. You have to do it, because that's where the world is going to evolve. And the other interesting point, which I see a lot of people not paying a lot of attention to, is when we talk about AI, it's not just about cost savings. It's not just about doing things fast. We talked about campaigns, right? We talked about CMOs can use AI in order to run more effective campaigns much faster and change them. Sure, it gives you a lot of productivity advantages, a lot of efficiency, a lot of effectiveness. But today AI is also leading to revenue growth. if it is seen as a strategic enabler in the customer experience and marketing space, it can do wonders.
No, but our brand seeing it like that, because you've been at multiple summit, like Adobe Summit, you were there,
Yeah.
Infosys, Microsoft, all these big events. So
Yeah.
what's the, those chatter or conversation about? Because in most of the conversation I've seen, heard, or been part of, they're mostly the decisions are being made based on efficiency
Yeah.
right now,
Yeah.
or cost.
Yeah.
And yes, with the goal of, yes, because end of the day you have to prove a use, there has to be a use case, so there has to be some outcome.
Yeah.
But are people still thinking on taking a hit on cost, but if it's going to revolutionize, change the way
Yeah.
customers are experiencing brands?
Yeah.
And the reason I'm asking this is because if they're not, the big brands are not, which
Mm.
gives a room, a space to startups, let's say niche players, who can come and kill the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's
And they're doing it, a lot of them.
Yeah, a lot of them are doing it. So see, one thing that is reality of the world and individuals
Yeah.
and humanity is that
Yeah.
most of us are followers. There are very few
Right.
individuals or organizations which lead the charge towards doing things differently, and then once it works, of course the others follow. So to your question, whether brands are doing it at scale, whether all of them are interested in having these conversations, no. A lot of brands are playing the wait and watch strategy. Let's see if it works for them, and that's fine. That's their
That's fine, yeah.
strategy. Not everybody has to be a leader in
Yeah.
the pack. A lot of them are not, but the ones who are doing it really well. You mentioned the Adobe Summit, right? I was looking at Marriott. Marriott has adopted this solution called Brand Concierge,
Yeah.
which is again an
From
agentic
Adobe.
AI based
Yeah.
system. It's wonderful. Through that particular system, I mean, we all make hotel bookings for our holidays,
Right.
right? Just that process of making a booking is so human-like and conversational that it becomes very easy. Now, if Marriott is doing it and tomorrow it goes and publishes some statistics on the fact that
Yeah.
we have seen this much increase in customer registration, this much increase in satisfaction, of course the others will follow.
That becomes the benchmark.
Yeah, that becomes the benchmark.
Yeah.
So not everybody is doing it, but my humble thing is that you cannot afford to ignore it. You can wait and watch, but you cannot not be on it. You risk becoming completely irrelevant in today's time. Yeah.
And are you seeing some of the like niche startups coming in and killing it, like solving a particular problem?
Absolutely. It's interesting you mentioned. I can probably name a few startups because these are companies I'm having active conversations with. Soul of the Machine is one startup that I'm currently working with.
Okay.
And it's in the AI services space. Within AI services, it specializes in designing agentic AI-driven customer experiences. And their premise is very simple. Now, whether the audience and you agree with that premise, that does not matter, but I'll tell you the premise of what it is. The premise is that generally when companies design experiences for customers, they think in very traditional manners, traditional workflows, that there is a customer journey, there is awareness, there is consideration, there is evaluation, there is purchase, there is post-purchase, and then there is loyalty.
What Philip Kotler taught us.
Yeah, what Philip Kotler taught us during
ago.
MBA and all of that.
Yeah.
All of that still remains.
Path to purchase, yeah.
We all think like that. But their central premise is that is gone. That has collapsed. And you need to think differently in terms of how you are designing experiences for your customers. And that different thinking is, to put it in simple terms, what is the customer intent? How are agents going to work around it? What outcome is being delivered? Okay? This is what that particular startup is doing. And the other premise that they're working with is that you don't need 40 people to do that job. You probably need 4 or maximum 10 people and a couple of agents to do that job. That's an interesting conversation to be had, right? There's another startup, Futurist Digital.
Okay.
And exactly the same. They are saying that the traditional ways in which experiences are being designed are no more going to be relevant. And this is what we are going to do. It's going to be an agentic AI first conversation with respect to experience design. So those two startups is something that I've seen. What does that mean? Does that mean the traditional UI UX is gone? Nobody is going to work on it? Absolutely not. It's not gone. Because as I said, most of the brands are going to be followers. Most of the brands are going to do it the traditional way till it picks up. So these companies have their traditional set of services of, brand services, content services, and UI, UX. But then there is a vertical which is meant for brands who want to be leaders in the space. So yeah, there's lots happening over there. And we should also, maybe during the course of the conversation, talk about how talent models are changing.
Yeah.
How talent models are changing. I think there needs to be a conversation on sustainability and responsibility, and there needs to be a conversation on education too.
Let me shift gears slightly, because we're talking more about ethics, talking more about responsibility. But as a second part, so the shift I want to make is, you spoke about these startups coming out and saying traditional journeys are no more, the way people are engaging. Agentic AI is the way forward, all of that. Is it also because we're seeing or anticipating a shift in customer behavior, like being reliant on a particular tech, or delegating a certain task? For example, even on ChatGPT, I can schedule something every morning, tell me, let's say, or the weather is, traffic is, whatever it is, and tell me what's the best part. I'm just saying. So people are slowly having a shift in their behavioral pattern as well. So are they anticipating that, and in the virtue of that saying, or is it more on, oh, we have the tech now, we don't need to, make it like a linear. It was never linear all way long. It was just that we never knew what the intent is, context is. Hence, we could not act in real time. Now we can. Which one of the two are, do you think?
I think it's a typical consultant answer. It's a mix of both. I will not lean towards one side. On one hand, I think the consumer behavior is changing a lot. And I'll say that, from the time that our parents were growing up, they were okay with standing in lines to pay bills. They were absolutely okay with that. Our generation came and said, no, we'll pay by internet. We'll log on to a website, enter our code, whatever that customer journey looked like. And then came, a set of people, no, this is the Netflix generation, right? This is like, at the click of a button, I have the movie that I want to watch. At a click of a button, I have this quick commerce and all of that. Why can't at a click of a button, I can do other things? So this behavioral change in human beings, where people, and that's the direction of evolution, right? You always want things to be simpler, easier, accessible. That has always been the case. It's just that to a certain generation, it was not available. For today's generation, it is available because the tech has progressed.
Right.
The tech makes it possible, but the intent was always that, to make it simpler, easier, accessible. Right? Who wants to go through a difficult customer journey when there is a simpler one?
So it's going to be a change in consumer behavior, right? Or how we live our life.
Absolutely.
Like agents are going to take away, I can delegate a lot. In future, I can anticipate delegating a lot of tasks, where even if as simple as going and shopping which credit card to use. Sometimes you think, okay, which will give me maximum points and everything. It can take up that job. It will pay through that credit card, which will give you the maximum points, basis your goals, or basis the merchant that you're dealing with. It'll take care of that. Or be it, let's say your flight got cancelled. So it'll automatically rebook another flight. You'll not even know. It's like it'll take care of a lot of these things which probably would have overwhelmed you with so many decisions. And that is going to make a big shift in how consumers, how our behavior is going to, human behavior is going to change.
What you are talking about is that it will become invisible and embedded. Today we are talking about, we want to use AI for this, AI for that. Next generation or whatever, as we become more older.
The 5-year-olds right now.
The 5 years old right now. We're like, what were they even talking about? They will not know. They will just know interaction and how easy the interaction is. Whether there is AI or some other back-end technology, who cares? Who cares? It's just going, that's the future. It is going to be embedded, invisible, and to a great extent, omni-channel.
I can imagine even my 5-year-old, after a couple of years, I'm sure he'll go tell people that, there are shops who sell vegetables. You have to go there. You see there, people have put vegetables on the table and then you pick and buy.
Absolutely. And think about what your child will talk about your own parents. what kind
Right.
of how they were,
Right.
interacting with brands was very different.
Yeah.
Imagine even you and I have called call centers, right?
Of course, yeah.
We're not, we still do,
Yeah.
but will they? Is the question, right? So that's becoming very interesting. In fact, I speak to quite a few companies, and without taking names,
Mm-hmm.
uh, in one scenario, it's a consulting firm. And they have said that for every consultant that we have, we will have at least 5 agents assisting that particular consultant by the XYZ year. These are the targets that brands are setting for themselves today. And that's interesting, right? There are conversations that we are going to deploy AI agents, just like there is performance management for human beings in workplace. We've got to have performance management for AI agents. At the Adobe Summit, in fact, in the investor meeting, there were conversations that, for SaaS, generally generally a subscription-based model, right?
Yeah.
You pay on a monthly basis and all. But for AI agents, because they are outcome-driven and goal-oriented, how do you price for them? Do you price? Salesforce is pricing per transaction. They are saying for every transaction that you do on a AI, with an AI agent, you charge $2. There are some other companies who've started to have conversations on if your goals are met, and this is whatever the nature of the goals is, you pay us. So the world is heading towards that kind of conversations.
I read an interesting statement that IT department right now is going to be the HR department in future for AI agents.
For AI agents. No, I don't think that's very far also. Because if you see, we're talking about AI agents, but who's developing these agents?
Yeah.
You look at Adobe is developing it. You look at Salesforce, it's developing it. Sitecore is developing it. Accenture is developing it. Infosys, you name
Everybody
these
in the world is doing
the
it.
Services companies, tech companies, product companies on their own, they are developing it.
Yeah.
Which agent is more effective? Which one to go after? Should I develop my own, etc.? That's a kind of an evaluation itself, right? Is it even working well or not? So all of those conversations are very, very interesting in the CX space.
But what I'm also looking at is so every advancement of technology has had a detrimental impact on human intelligence. For example, when calculators came before that, I'm sure my grandfather, their generation, they used to do all the mental math, do the calculation. Then calculators came.
Yeah.
Now phones came. So many things came. Now, for example, my mother remembers all her relatives' phone numbers on a fingertip.
Yeah.
Their birth dates on the fingertip.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I don't have to.
Yeah,
So
you don't have to.
With AI coming in, so much reliant where I'm not even taking my own decisions.
Yeah.
I have given it to an autonomous agent to take their decisions, which works great for me.
Yeah.
It is solving my problem. I don't have to think of 10 things. But am I losing the ability to do critical thinking over long term?
Yeah. That's a good point, and probably I'll lean towards...
And that's where ethics also...
Yeah, ethics also come in, and I lean towards one side of the argument and extending your calculator stuff. I think with the invention of calculators or advanced machines to do numerical calculations, whether it is calculators or, computers, etc., it opened up the doorway for doing so much. You understand? So from a person's perspective, I don't have to mentally worry about calculations. From an economy perspective,
I can think of other things.
Yeah, there were so many other things that opened up, right? Just because we could do complex calculations on these either calculators or these fancy computers, we could think about space technology. We could think about higher order tasks, etc. Right. So my assumption over here is that yes, AI will free us from a lot of decision making, but critical thinking is not something that it can take away, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. My biggest problem every day is to answer so many emails. All right, it eats up a lot of my time.
Right.
I use an agent to write my emails now. Okay, but do I give that agent 100% autonomy to keep replying? No. It drafts the response. I read it. If it matches my style of writing, my tone, if it actually answers everything, etc. So that critical thinking and higher order task is something that a human is always in the loop, I feel. I don't think it will take that away. I think it will push you and me and all the people who are watching this particular podcast to rethink what skills they want to possess as individuals and as, professionals. I'll give you an example. In customer experience space itself, I might say I know content creation very well. That's my job. I'm only going to do content creation. But then content creation an AI agent can also do now.
Right.
Then what becomes my task? My task becomes slightly higher order. What is it? I understand what the brand stands for. Let's say it's Airtel brand or any other brand. I know what the brand stands for. This content is being created by AI. Does it adhere to the brand guidelines? Will it work for the audience that I'm catering to? That critical thinking, that consulting level thinking, that understanding the context, etc., will also be part of human beings thinking about how to work with AI agents.
No, but that's you're saying AI agents. But when you say agentic AI, we are building an autonomous system which can take decisions based on the outcome, like the whole personalization or campaign
but
example.
there's no human, but there is human in the loop, no?
No, but then if you're looking at personalization at a micro level, where we're saying it understands the intent, it will have the ability to even roll out a certain offer, right? If you want to give a 10% discount or free shipping or anything, then you're giving that autonomy to that.
Absolutely.
AI,
You are.
But now think it from I'm saying more from a customer perspective. When some of these agents, let's say, would be available for me, let's say to book a flight, automatically it will book, rebook if it gets cancelled, or order groceries or whatever it is. Now, eventually, it will start taking decisions based on what my intent is, what my pattern is, everything. But there will be a point it is taking decisions which I'm not even aware of.
Yeah.
Which is by choice.
Yeah. Which is by choice.
Which is by choice. But after a few years, I'll not even consciously know what were those things.
Yeah.
And it will only give me that personalized experience, which is the digital self of me. For example, if I have to change as a person, I can't change that.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking futuristic, right? You know how it's shown in the movies as well.
This is very interesting.
Imagine, let's say somebody has had a breakup, let's say, and they don't want to go to the same restaurant, don't want to go have the same beer, don't want to smoke the same cigarette, let's say.
Yeah.
It'll not let you.
Yeah.
It'll keep ordering the same thing because the agent would not know that you have changed.
Yeah.
It'll not expect you to change because it has been trained over the years to be in a particular pattern.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very, interesting, funny times.
Yeah, I think the beauty of change in the world is to leave certain things to unfold as the future unfolds. So I don't have an answer to whether that breakup situation, how the AI will respond to it. But we will see once we get there. But there are some critical questions also that like you are raising, and some of the other critical questions on the talent model that I spoke about that definitely need to be addressed.
Yeah, because the whole debate for customers is brands. It's a clear win-win. Like you're saying, be it efficiency, be it personalization, understanding these user at the moment, the whole zero moment of truth that Google spoke about so many years ago. Now it's coming to reality where you can do that. But from a customer perspective, they'll not even know that they're changing. Their behaviors are changing. So the question is, when does a help becomes a dependency?
Yeah.
When does personalization become more like surveillance?
Yeah.
Those are the questions which probably will be hard hitting after 5 years from now.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you remember, but this entire during COVID era, there were a lot of AI that was already being used by brands, right? The machine learning models, etc. During when the COVID happened, those models failed completely. Those models failed because suddenly, unexpectedly, there was change in customer behavior, right?
Correct.
COVID forced that change. And the models were trained on historical data.
Right.
That historical data was no more valid. So whatever predictions they were making, it didn't make any sense at all. Now, at that time, what did the brands do? What was interesting was that they, on a regular basis, made sure that they are checking and retraining their AI models in order to ensure that it is up to date and there is a certain flexibility with respect to change in customer behavior. That happened during COVID. The nature of humanity is such that it always evolves and adapts to change. So I'm sure there will be something that will come to address this, but we will see once we get there.
But talking about ethics, now there'll be agents, like for example, ChatGPT helps, in your day-to-day task. It's like you have an executive assistant with you, to do research, everything for you. Now, after a point, that agent will be so personalized towards me. Will be like my digital presence,
Yeah.
and probably will start taking decisions also as
Yeah.
tech grows. Talking from an ethics standpoint, who will own that agent? Should it be the customer or the platform
Yeah.
or the brand? Because after a
Yeah.
point when you're so used to not taking decisions because it is autonomously taking it,
Yeah.
it is understanding your mood,
Yeah.
intent, driving the whole experience
Yeah.
for you, not just for buying but everything.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll not even know if it is the algorithm which is pushing this
Yeah.
or you really wanted it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so
See,
who should own? I mean, who will own this?
from my perspective, currently, who's owning this are these big tech companies.
Right.
Whosoever is investing in it. Back in the day, we used to say data is the, new gold. Now we say it is all these AI systems. See, and maybe I don't know how many people are fans of this, but maybe that's where regulation comes into picture, right? I'll talk about ethics from two perspectives. One, the question you raised, and I'll talk about the second one as well. When there is so much of power through AI systems that you suddenly give, it happens suddenly,
Right.
to everyone, whether it is a marketer, whether it is a
Right.
consumer, whether it is anything, etc. And the government bodies, and then the companies will benefit from it, the big tech vendors, right?
I mean, look at Ghibli
They are
images.
for-profit organizations. They will work towards
Yeah,
what the
yeah.
consumers want. Consumers will
They have
work
thought
towards
through
what
it.
is working for them. Who, in a way, controls that or regulates that? There has to be a body that, makes sure that some of these things are happening ethically. Think about Australia. They took a bold decision of not allowing children below 16 years of age to access social media.
Right.
That has impact on Facebook business, but they took that decision.
Right.
Think about European Union. European Union made GDPR
Right.
legally enforceable in 2018.
Right.
To comply to GDPR is a huge task for a lot of enterprises, but they did that
Right.
because they knew the customer data can be used in whatever way possible. Shouldn't we be having conversation on AI, on the regulations that need to be placed on some of
Right.
these companies, or how it is being used, etc., and the evolution of the technology? I'll tell you what the problem today is. The governing body itself does not understand the capability of the technology and the direction that it is possibly heading in. If it is too fast a change for people like you and me, who track this space on an ongoing basis, think about government organizations who are into policy making. Suddenly somebody says Agentic AI is coming, it will take some time to even understand what it means. Forget. So
even to change the curriculum of school system, it takes 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, so that's one part of ethics. I know business people don't like the word regulation, and people want to say, hey, let innovation takes its own course. But when it is about, these autonomous systems taking decisions on their own and the evolution of that, there needs to be an overarching framework or guideline.
Yeah.
And I think regulatory bodies need to step in whether somebody likes it or not. So that's one. The second part of ethics, which again I see the industry not talking about, but that's so important for you to raise it given the reach that you have, is sustainability. Look at this, what was that Gilbert art trend that took up, right?
Ghibli
People
images.
Ghibli, I don't know.
Yeah,
whatever, Miyazaki's movies. When it took up, when it became like a trend, everybody was jumping onto that bandwagon. And then people were saying, oh, data centers are melting. Take a pause for a moment and think about what it means. Right. It means more greenhouse emissions. It means water levels rising. It means cities becoming hotter. It means, and that eventually leads to fight for resources and global wars, etc. So this is like a pack of cards falling.
Right.
And, should we expect each and every human being to be so conscious and aware that they don't jump onto these bandwagons, etc., and make data centers melt? Maybe not. Maybe average humanity does not want to be so self-aware and conscious.
Right.
If the big tech is not thinking of that, if consumers are not thinking of the repercussions, the environmental repercussions of these technologies, who does? That's the question. And I think there needs to be, and I'll tell you why I feel so strongly about it. I was recently, I'll not again take the name of the company, but I was at the conference of one of the big tech companies. And it was all about what all AI can do in the experience space. And it was so good. And I raised this question. I said, you're making so much of investments,
Right.
billions of dollars of investments. What is your take? Well, what are you doing to ensure that there is sustainable adoption of these technologies, the environmental impact of these technologies? The answer was so disappointing. The answer was, uh, it was almost like a bot speaking who has learned this answer. And the answer was, we take this very seriously and we adhere to all our greenhouse emissions, whatever that is. It didn't answer the question. What are you doing? Do you even care about it, or are you doing lip service to it? Sustainability is a very important point. Big tech companies need to be held accountable, not consumers.
True.
Big tech companies.
Yeah.
The other point that becomes extremely important is education system. You and I were talking about it. We both have these little kids. Education systems are knowledge based. How much knowledge do I have of World War I, World War II, Internet revolution? I don't know how economies work. It's all knowledge based. It's not inquiry based.
Right.
Who cares about knowledge now?
Right. It's not
We
relevant
do.
to remember. Yeah.
It's not relevant to remember. It's relevant to know, to have an overarching picture, but you've got all these tools through which you can within a second get all the knowledge that you need. What you need is critical thinking, inquiry-based learning, etc. Our schools in India and a lot of places across the world, and I will even include America here, because there is a public health, public education system there that may not be as evolved as we'd like to think it is. Do we have inquiry-based learning? Are we preparing our young generation to be able to live in a world where all of these technologies will be adopted at scale? Are we rethinking our education curriculum? Are teachers equipped to even think about it? Those are very fundamental questions that school by school it cannot be answered. It has to be answered by the overarching bodies. And the third implication, it is on you, me, it is on everyone, are the talent models. Everywhere across the world, the talent model generally have been pyramid. Right? In some cases, it has been diamond shaped. But now we are moving towards flat talent models. What I mean by that is that you don't need one person to be an absolutely brilliant person in just one thing. They've got to have elements of design, creativity, technology, and critical thinking in them. Are our education systems equipping them to take that up? Those are some very, very important questions we need to think through.
And just want to ask my last question, based on this, is for all the people who are entering into the professional world now, it's a very different time from, let's say, 10 years or 15 years ago, especially in the tech space. So what are some of those skills that they should be, on top of to be relevant in, the whole transformation which is happening? Because with agent, writing code is the most productive, the use case that every brand has already started doing. And for some of the young professionals who are getting out there with no experience literally, so what are your tips in terms of what they should be looking at?
There can be so many tips about soft skills, all those technical skills that need to have, but overarching all of that is the ability to adapt and to embrace, to unlearn and to relearn. I'll tell you why I'm saying that. When you come out of a university, including me, I'm guilty of that too. You come out of a university, you think you've learned certain set of things that you will now apply in the workplace. And the workplace is a completely different game. Because there are certain skills that are not taught to you at all, the softer skills that it takes, the public speaking skills, the writing skills, all of those stuff, right? And then there are, of course, technical skills as well that are also not taught to you to that great an extent, because technology evolves much faster than education curriculum evolves. So my humble advice would be the ability to adapt to the change, to be open to unlearning and relearning. As part of that, the broader conversation on skills can be had, like your critical thinking, like your ability to look at the big picture versus on narrow tasks, etc. That's longer conversation to be had on skills. But if you have the basics right, I don't think the question on which skill to have and which skill not to have will be difficult to answer.
Cool. Thank you so much. I mean, this was very insightful. I loved it, and I'm sure all the viewers watching it would have found it very insightful.
Thank you so
thank you
much.
so much for coming on this episode and talking about all this.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I learned a lot from your questions as well. So thank you.
Loved it. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for watching, and do like, subscribe, and comment as well. If you have any questions, we'd love to answer in the comment section. Thank you.